Just like when it gets cold, you break out your winter jacket to prepare yourself for the cold weather. Well, your car also needs to get some sort of winter jacket to protect it from the cold. Now, if you're fortunate enough that you live in an area that you don't really need to do many modifications to your car to get it ready for winter, count your blessings. Now, unlike that, for me, I have to go and do a lot of stuff to my car to get it ready to go through a Canadian winter, and I can go from A to B safely. Today in this video, I'm going to show you what I do to my car from beginning to end so that I can get my car safely from A to B without an issue. So the first thing that you should start doing before you get ready for winter is make sure that any problems you have with your vehicle are fixed and taken care of before it actually gets very cold. Now, the reason being is that if there's any problem with your car, the last thing that you want to do is be stranded on the side of the road and stuck there, say with a broken car with no heat. And then if you have children in the car or anything like that, it could be very bad. So if you can, make sure that everything is running at top notch before you get started into winter. So if you need to work on the engine and get any engine problems sorted, I would suggest doing that now, along with any kind of engine code that you have on your car. So if you have a check engine light, make sure that you get it cleared, taken care of, and sorted before it gets too cold. Now, the beauty with, say, a little scan tool like this is that not only are they not really too expensive, you can pick them up for $100 easily, and they'll tell you a lot of valuable information that you would have to pay a lot at a mechanic shop to get sorted. So with a little tool like this is an Autel. It's an Autel Auto Link, and I'll have a link for one of these in the description box. You can check engine codes, you can see any of the parameters that are going on in the engine. So right here, if you can see, we can see if we have no check engine light, the fuel system is in closed loop, we can see the engine coolant temperature, our short and long-term fuel trims, and everything in between. Now, we just recently used one of these things to diagnose a faulty O2 sensor for my little brother's Golf. If you pick up one of these things, it'll easily save you 1 hour's worth of labor to diagnose your car at a mechanic shop. And then at that point, you'll have this tool forever. Now, if you come in here, say O2 sensor 1, that's what we replaced on Luca's car. You can see that. You can see readings for everything. So, pick one of these things up, and if you have any check engine lights up here, get them sorted. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about kind of relates to the first thing that I just spoke about, and that is regarding the battery. Now, the battery right here is in my trunk only because of personal preference. However, during the winter, your battery is going to be put to a test because during the summer, when the battery is turning on the car, it's not really put to the test or stressed because of the warmer temperatures. When the temperatures drop below zero, the cold cranking amperage out of the battery is really going to be put to the test and is really necessary in starting your car up in colder conditions. Now, if your battery is dying or it's starting to die during the summer, this would be a great time to upgrade to a nice battery like a yellow top that I have right here, or even replace it with an OEM one. Alrighty, next up, let's talk about tires. Now, winter tires are really going to outperform your summers and even all-season tires drastically. Now, the reason being is that the compound is a lot softer than a summer or an all-season tire. So an all-season tire is designed to perform adequate during wet, dry, and snow conditions. However, it's not fantastic in any of them. If you ask me, the best option other than just a regular all-season tire is to run a summer tire, a dedicated summer, that's going to perform very well in both the dry and the wet. And then laterwards, switch to a set of snow tires that'll perform a lot better than any all-season in the snow. And if you ask me, it might cost a little bit more up front. However, you're going to get better performance, and it's going to cost you the same laterwards. So the reason being is that you're going to be paying for 2 sets of wheels, this one and this one. However, they're going to last you twice as long because you have double the rubber. When the temperature drops below 7 degrees, switching to a snow tire will outperform both of these by a long shot. Your stopping distance is going to be decreased, and everything is going to be a lot better, even though there's not snow. Because of the softer compound, it's going to handle very nicely. Now, as soon as you get snow, there's no competition. The snow tires are going to blow away both the summer and the all-season tires out of the water. To change them out, all you have to do is remove the OEM wheel, or the wheel that you currently have mounted on the car, remove the 5 lug nuts, swap over to the winter wheel, throw that on, and tighten the lug nuts back up. It's very easy. Now, if you ask me, using a set of OEM wheels and then another set of wheels is very nice because you don't have to switch the tire from here to here should you have to switch down the road. So having 2 sets is going to cost you a little bit of money up front. However, in the long run, it's definitely going to be worth it, because every season you don't have to dismount and mount the tire from, say, your winters to your summers or your summers to winters. It's all going to be very easy, and you can change your tires in a matter of no time. Now, just for a side note, if you guys are enthusiasts and you're looking at getting a set of aftermarket wheels and tires for your car, this is what I would suggest if you have to worry about winter tires. Well, what I did is I let my stock tires on my OEM wheels, I wore those down until they were bald and I needed to replace them. What I did was I got a set of winter tires, mounted them on there, and then come the next season, I bought a set of aftermarket wheels and tires right there, and those are summers. Now, the reason I did that is because I didn't want to have to deal with a set of steelies that are going to rust out and look like this. So what I did was I used my aluminum OEM rims, mounted those up to my winters, and then eventually got a new set of summer tires with larger wheels. And if you ask me, that method is the best way to go about doing this, because you're not going to have to buy a set of winter rims. So all you're going to be doing is buying a set of summer wheels and tires, opposed to looking at steelies that get rusty and look like that. Now, next up, let's talk about the coolant. Now, the coolant that we run inside of our engine is the same thing as the antifreeze. Now, all that it does is it circulates inside the engine to make sure that everything is cooled properly. And from that, the coolant that now gains heat is put through our heater, and that is how we obtain heat inside of our cabin. So the coolant is going to go through the engine to the outside, inside the heater, which is inside of the cabin, which is essentially just another radiator. And then that's on the inside, a fan blows it in, and that gives us heat. Now, the only way that we'll have heat in our car is if we have enough coolant to circulate through all of this, so it can go through the engine, and then it has enough to go through the lines into the heater. Now, the way that we make sure that we have enough is we go in the engine bay, we find our expansion tank right here, and we make sure that it's within spec. So if you can see right here, this is our lower line and our upper line. Now, when this gets warmed up, that line is probably going to go up to about here-ish, and it's just not going to overflow. Now, if we have enough coolant, so if it's within that spec, and we have to make sure we have the right coolant in there, if that's all good, we're going to have the coolant going from here into the engine bay, through those 2 coolant lines. And if you can see back there, see those 2 coolant lines? Those extra ones go to the heater core, and that's what gives us heat. Ensuring that we have the proper coolant in the vehicle is going to make sure that everything is going to work properly as it should. Now, if you're unsure what kind of coolant or anything that you need, if you want, you can check your owner's manual, which is found in your glove box. Otherwise, if you don't have one of those, you can go to the dealership and they will point you in the right direction to what kind of fluid you need and how much of it you need. Now, if you can see right here, this coolant that we have right here is 50-50 pre-diluted. So you don't need to add water to it, and you don't need to do anything to it. All that you do is crack open the cap and put the appropriate amount of fluid inside of our expansion tank. Now, if it's in the right spec, everything's gonna work properly, and we're gonna have heat in our car. To test out the car and see if we have coolant that's warm and it all works, you have to let the coolant get to the operating temperature, and then at that point, when you come here and you turn the heat up, on high, we should get nice warm air coming out of both the top vents and also the vents found in the footwell. If everything is good, we're gonna get heat in our car, and then come winter time, we're not gonna be freezing our buns off on the inside of the car. Now, if we don't get heat, even when we let the coolant warm up, you're probably gonna have a problem with either the heater core or you don't have enough coolant inside your system. If you don't have enough coolant, just pour the appropriate amount in there to be within that spec between the low and the high. And even still, if that doesn't work, I would get your car checked out at a mechanic shop just to do a once over and get everything working properly. It's better to test out this stuff now before you need it than afterwards when you really need it and when you're in a pinch. Next up, let's talk about engine oil. So the oil changes are the most important part of keeping your car on the road. For my car, Honda recommends using one of 2 different engine oils. I can either use a 5W20 oil or a 0W20 oil. These are multi-viscosity oils. This means that the oil has a weight of a 5-weight oil and a 20-weight oil. The 5-weight oil is rated when it's cold, and the 20 is rated when it's warm. Now the 5W, so the W after the first number means the oil was tested at 0 degrees Fahrenheit, which is negative 18 degrees Celsius. Now the way they come up with a second number for the oil is they measured the viscosity of the oil when it's rated at 100 Celsius or 212 Fahrenheit. Anyways, this means that the oil for the 0W20 oil will be able to lubricate the engine better under much colder conditions. So when it's colder, the 0W20 oil that I have to the left is going to lubricate the engine better under very cold conditions as opposed to the 5W20. Now, because both of the second numbers are the same, the 20, that means that when the engine gets warm and it gets up to operating temperatures, they're both going to act the exact same way. It's just under colder conditions that the 0W20 is going to lubricate the engine better. Now, for both of these conditions, I'm still going to be using the exact same oil filter for both. So the oil filter isn't going to change. However, when it starts to get cold, I switch to 0W20. So say if your car is a 5W30 and that's what it's rated for during the winter, you might be able to switch to a 0W30. That's going to prevent the engine from starving from oil, and it's going to make sure that everything is going to be well lubricated once you initially start up your car when it's very cold. So say in the morning when the car has been sitting for multiple hours, everything's going to be cold and it's not really going to be lubricated nicely. If you have a very thin oil, everything can be lubricated very quickly and efficiently, which means that nothing is going to be metal on metal. And if you get the car to run metal on metal, that's where parts start to break. Now, I really hope no one has to go through this, but moving back to the trunk, you better make sure you know how to use your spare tire. You better make sure you know how to install that back on the car and use your spare jack. Say your car gets a flat tire. If you know how to use all of this, you're not going to be stranded at the road waiting for, say, 4 hours for a tow truck to come, because in the middle of the winter, most of those tow trucks are used to take people out of ditches, help get people's batteries started back up. So if your car is good to go, you're not going to be stranded and waiting for them to get you out of a sticky situation. Next up, let's talk about rain shield washer fluid. Now, depending on what kind of environment you're in, you want to use a different kind of fluid. So during the summer, I use bug and tar remover, and the lowest temperature that that's rated for is 0 degrees. So what that means is that it's good up until the freezing point of water. Now, you can go otherwise to a different kind of product, such as the Rain-X De-Icer, which is good up to -40. So it's good to repel water, just like all the other Rain-X products. However, it's rated to be working at -40, which is a lot colder than, say, the summer fluid. Something that the De-Icer, so the winter spec fluid, does not do that the bug and tar remover does is clean up bug guts from your windshield. Now, during the winter, it's not a big deal because, well, there aren't really bugs. However, during the summer, you should switch back to your bug and tar remover. Now, if you want to go to a single fluid that'll work all year round, you can use the Rain-X All Season, and it's good to up till -45, and it also is good for repelling bugs. So if you have any bug guts that are on the windshield, it'll remove most of them. However, it doesn't quite work as well as the dedicated bug and tar remover. Now, whichever one you like to use is completely up to you. However, during the winter, I like switching to either the De-Icer or the all-season one. You should definitely move away from the regular bug and tar remover, because if you get any of the fluid inside the lines, if the fluid sits in there, it'll freeze, crack the lines, and then you're gonna have to replace all those parts. So you can empty out your reservoir or spray it until you're low, and then fill it up with your De-Icer or your all-season fluid. Now, something else to consider is changing out your windshield washer blades. Now, if you have a set of OEM wipers, you can replace them with regular blades like this that you can purchase from the dealership. So I have one of them right here for the driver and this one right here for the passenger, and both of them cost me about $8 to replace. So all that you do is you replace the little piece on the inside of here. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna allow me to essentially have a brand new wiper without costing an arm and a leg. However, if you don't have that style of windshield washer fluid, I like using the Rain-X Latitude ones because it repels water, it works very nicely, and there's no streaks. Now, this kind of thing will work during the summer, spring, and winter. So it's good all year round, throw it on the car, and whenever it's done, you can replace them with new ones. However, if you ask me, I find the refills to be a lot better, and it's gonna cost you a little bit less down the road. Now, you should be prepping your car so that your car isn't going to be stranded on the side of the road for whatever reason. However, if it does, here are a couple things that I would like to keep in the car just in case. So moving from the left, I've got a set of jumper cables, I've got a set of zip ties, I've got a blanket, I've got 2 waters in there, a chocolate bar, a jar of peanut butter, some gloves, a flashlight, a knife, and 2 road flares. These are just some extra things that I like to keep in my car over the course of the winter, just in case something were to happen. I have most of the stuff that would get me by should I need it. So if I'm super cold, I need a blanket. If I can't get to food or water for a while, I've got 2 things of water and some peanut butter and chocolate. I have a knife, flashlight, flares, and most of the stuff that should be able to get me out of a sticky situation. Now, I've gone over most of the stuff that your car is going to need to get through the winter. However, there's one more aspect to the car that you need to go over to ensure that your car is going to last a while and it's not going to be too damaged over the course of the winter. And by that, I mean taking care of it and making sure it doesn't rust. Now, on the bottom side of the car, most of the components are not going to be coated with a coating that's going to prevent it from the salt and anything else that's going to come in contact with the bottom of the car. Now, all that stuff is going to eventually rust. Now, to prevent it from rusting, if you want, you can go ahead and undercoat the underside of the vehicle. And by that, I mean you're going to be spraying some 3M rubberized undercoating on the wheel wells and the bottom side of the vehicle. By doing that, you're going to protect the car from getting any rust by introducing a medium between the salt that's going to land on the vehicle and the bare metal or anything else that's underneath the vehicle. It's going to make it so that it's not going to rust out prematurely and your car's going to last a nice long time. So that really nice car that you bought, you want to make sure that it stays looking good over time. So by undercoating the bottom side of it, it will do exactly that. If you want to see a video on how to fully do that, I'll go into more detail in this video. You can click this link or check the description box for a link directing you there. Now, once you have your car good to go, the most important part of all of this is making sure that you are good to go. Now, what I mean by that is make sure you have your seatbelt on, you put it on properly, make sure you get practice driving in the snow even when it snows on the ground. Now, the biggest problem of, say, driving in the winter is not the fact that there is snow on the ground. It's that people don't know how to drive given those weather conditions. So say you get a snowstorm, say it snows and you have a couple inches of snow on the ground. The best thing to do, other than going home and parking the car and not driving, is to get more familiar with driving in that weather and in that climate. Now, what I mean by that is getting the car, go to a deserted parking lot where there's no people and drive around, see what the car can do. By understanding how the car handles, see how it behaves, you're gonna be a better driver and you're gonna be more comfortable driving given those weather conditions. You're gonna be a safer driver, there's gonna be less accidents on the road, and if everyone takes their sweet time, there's no rush, there's not gonna be any accidents in the winter. If you guys have any tips or anything else that I've missed, throw it down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. If you have any questions regarding the video, throw it down there as well. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Because those things are vicious, eh?
Yeah, I know, that scared the hell out of me.
Did it show in your video?
I opened up the hood and I just saw the raccoon.
How about the raccoon underneath?
It's like sitting right on top of the engine. Yeah, so yeah, there's a raccoon underneath the hood. Now, I was showing you guys, like, I was gonna be making a video right now on what to do to get your car ready for winter. And, well, step number 1 is taking care of any of the mechanical problems. And while I was doing that, I was just going to demonstrate where the hood is and make sure everything's running nicely. When I went to go pop the hood, there was a freaking raccoon right on top of the intake manifold.
Come on, Milan, keep doing it. Keep doing it. Let's go. It's gone.
Is it out?
Okay. Yeah, now it's under the Mustang.
He's under the Mustang?
Yeah.